I would like to invite our moderator, Mr. Ishan Banerjee, media and entertainment lawyer. I would like to call upon our speakers, Mr. Parag Kamani, advocate and entertainment industry veteran. Next, I'd like to invite Mr. Jamshed Mistry, founder, International Legal Alliance. I would like to invite Dr. Harsha Thenarasu, Chief IT and Cybersecurity Advisor. I would like to also invite Mr. Sandeep Narvani, Chapter Lead, Legal Hackers. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for joining us here. My name is Ishan Banerjee. Thank you so much for the introduction. So we're here on behalf of Nuremberg Messe and the India Blockchain Alliance. Thank you very much, Shahnawaz, the team, Ganesh Kaushik also. And the last session, I think, was really great as well. And it was so interesting to see how small the industry really is in media as well. And quite a lot of interesting points were raised. So, big appreciation towards them as well. So we're going to talk about mostly protecting content in the digital space. And we'll talk about copyright laws and a lot of other allied spaces. With that, I would like to say that everyone here is a stalwart. I am quite a rookie in front of everyone, but let me introduce everyone. So, Mr. Parag Kamani, he is a media entertainment veteran as a lawyer, and we've had just the most amazing chat about music, which is his specialty. He spent more than 30 years, is it, sir? Yeah. So in that space, very interesting work. So we'll have an interesting conversation. Mr. Jamshed Mistry, he is also a stalwart and the founder of the International Legal Alliance. So I think a lot of conversation about trans-border disputes and how copyright can be regulated across borders. We have Dr. Harsha, who is a cybersecurity expert and chief IT advisor in HKIT Security. They have a lot of interesting stuff going on, especially now with the digital and the streaming space. Cybersecurity is especially interesting. So, and finally, we have Mr. Sandeep Narvani, who is, again, very, very small world. Turns out we're connected among a lot of different circles. So yeah, so he works mostly with AI, and he's the founder of an AI company as well right now. And they shape social media narrative and more or less bringing about a sort of dialogue as to how social media relates in this world of copyright. And since he's also a lawyer, he'll be able to give us quite a lot of insights on that. So with that, I think I'd like to first start by mentioning that everyone thinks lawyers and the legal space is kind of boring, but I assure you, yes, it is. But if you have interesting and cool people with a cool background, then we're everywhere. So it matters that the general audience, the general public, also has an idea of how important it is to work with copyright and how it plays a big role in the proliferation of technology nowadays and the way that audiences evolve. So without much ado, I'd like to start off with the first round, which will be essentially contributions from each of our esteemed panelists here. So Mr. Parag Kamani, if you would like to first tell us a little bit about your views on the topic in terms of how the music industry has been evolving in the sphere of digital streaming, and how audience tastes also matter in terms of copyright and music, and what are the key challenges that we're facing right now, and what can be done to sort of better this regulation and the legal space around it.
Thank you so much, Ishan, for the introduction and giving me an opportunity of expressing and conveying my thoughts. Um, I would just like to start off by talking about media and entertainment and the entire industry. For some strange and intriguing reason, through the decades, they've been very reluctant to really acknowledge and appreciate changing technologies. And I'll give you two examples. People over here might be familiar with a brand called HMV. There's a company called Saregama right now. When the format was changing from records, which is known as vinyl LPs, to cassettes, they actually perceived that cassettes was only a passing fad. So when cassettes were introduced into the Indian market, they priced it at the same price as the records, the LPs, which was 55 rupees. To cut a long story short, there was another company that entered at that period of time called T Series. They launched cassettes at 18 rupees, and that was the beginning of the end as far as HMV was concerned. For 10 years, they were under BIFR before they had a white knight from the Goenkas who actually purchased the company and brought it out of BIFR. So that was one. The other reluctance in terms of the music industry and media and entertainment being reluctant to accept technology was when the consumption patterns of consumers changed from the physical format into a digital format. So you had the World Wide Web, you had the internet, and there was a startup by the name of Napster, which actually allowed you to consume content, download content through a digital manner. Now, the music industry really were caught completely unaware. And then we can, of course, get into detail. But what you are listening to right now, and I'm assuming most of the people over here are at least subscribers or consuming content on Spotify. It is basically a Napster with legal parameters, okay, which is allowing you to do so. So I think the opening statement that I like to make before we can get into details about the other topics and subjects you spoke about is that you can't stop technology. You shouldn't want to stop technology. Just see that there are certain parameters available to go along with that technology so that everything can be done not only in a prim and proper manner, but within a legal frame. So that's my opening statement.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, that's definitely very enlightening on the space, and I love how like you brought about the whole journey. Mr. Mistry, so I would like to hear from you about what International Legal Alliance is working on in terms of copyright, and of course, given your extensive experience, you'd be able to also give us a sort of journey and where it's at right now with the trans-border disputes, because that is also something that's pretty big, like, in terms of disputes that can happen between a platform based in another country or a service provider or a production house based here or a content creator which runs afoul of, say, certain industry like bigwigs. So, or anything that you would like to also elucidate upon, sir.
So I'd like to actually take off from where Parag, if I may call him, stopped. I completely agree. I am also pretty much, I mean, now the gray hair is coming. So, yes, I've also done backstage. I've also played the cassette. In fact, I don't know if Joydeep is here, but we worked together. So, I mean, we started the first inter-college fashion competition many years ago, and we plagiarized it because we took something from what was available, having no regard to copyright. So that's one. So I think, yes, just see the way things have changed. I mean, it was not so long ago we never had a mobile phone. We then suddenly had a contraption called a pager, right? And then you moved ahead, and things have moved. That's right. So I think I'll take a parallel. you spoke about the media industry. I'd say the legal industry. Look at where we've actually had to go to court to explain and get live streaming of cases and something called legal transcripts in the system. Now, we had legal transcripts in our system in 1908. Okay, Tilak's judgment, okay, was transcribed. Now, how did they do that? They used stenographers. Okay, they changed them every half an hour. And even today, I mean, despite an order of the Supreme Court where we argued, we don't have transcripts even in the Bombay High Court. I think this is something that needs change. And what did we do to show even the establishment? We used a free AI app. We got somebody to do a moot court, and we said, well, it's about 85% accurate, so it's possible. So, I mean, it's not the media industry alone. Even the legal industry has a problem. Yes. So yes. So what? Okay. So essentially, what I did, very fortunate. We got an opportunity to practice law in Canada and things like that. So I realized that we needed to bring the entire legal world together on a single platform and have our colleagues across the world work together. No, I mean, we're so used to working against each other, but we decided to work together. So that's how I sort of picked up the domain name, and then we wrote to lawyers across the world, and they all agreed, and that's how the International Legal Alliance came together. It's a virtual platform. So it has helped us immensely. We were one step ahead of COVID. We were able to communicate, and we still continue to do so across the world without a problem. We've done a lot of very imaginative things. And then coming to copyright as a solution or a problem, I think it is one of, it's very interesting. India has signed several international conventions. So the law is there, everything is in place, there's no problem there. The problem is knowledge and implementation. And I think let's focus as we go along.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Mistry. That's absolutely, I mean, I have a few questions for you when we do when we open it up, of course. So Dr. Harsha, of course, he is the one person with technical knowledge in terms of how the space has actually evolved. Sir has been in the industry for again 30 years. So from your perspective, how do you see cybersecurity's role in terms of protecting individuals' data, individuals' content that they create? As in, if somebody's how do I put this? Like, before the legal side of things, the legal resolution can be done, people will first look at a technological resolution because that's the thing that you have in the palm of your hands. So how do you see the role of cybersecurity in protecting people's content, and also, of course, production companies and such other creators? Sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. In fact, being a cyber security researcher, I look at content and I look at everything in the suspicious mode. Okay, you invest millions of dollars on the movie, and the clips are stolen by somebody. I know personally there is a 10 minutes video which was not at all shot by them, taking up frames from different videos, contents, and made a video. Okay, so you tell me now, it's not that the content is secure in the media industry. And always when it comes to a technology front, hackers are very advanced level they are into. Okay, we don't know whether we are hacked. We don't know whether our contents are compromised. Okay, but we are very happy. Being auditor, I came across with a lot of case studies where content stolen, those are untraced. Do they have a track of how the content is leaked? Okay, whether the Act which talks about 1957 and amendment of 2012, you know what is the penalty? It starts from 50,000 rupees, maximum 2 lakh rupees. Do the industry, media industry, is investing 50,000, 1 lakh rupees? It's a huge investment. If it goes to the court, okay, it starts from 50,000 rupees. Is it justified? As a criminal, I'm ready to steal your data or content. I pay 50,000 happily and go and do some business with this. Yes. So now what happens now? Media industry is underestimating the security part. In the previous session, what I was observing, they were an excellent topic and it was very
Yes,
good
absolutely.
insight. But if attack is happens, your business is going down. You know, everybody knows about Sony compromise, right? Some years back.
Yeah.
So how much they put effort and to come back to the normal. So why we are not learning the lesson from them? That is very, very important point which I would like to bring here. As a security experts, we are always looking into the content is a diamond, whether you value it or not. Okay? But when the content is needed, there is an incident has happened.
Right.
You wanted to recover that content in the 1980s shot, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you were mentioning this earlier when we were having a chat. Yeah.
So that's very, very important. As a security part, I'm purely onto the technical side. How hacker can do, okay?
Right.
Copyright protections and watermarks. There is a reverse engineering to take that watermark out. Okay, so there are best practices which we would
Absolutely. We'll
take it
delve into
forward.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
Further into detail.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So also now we have Mr. Sandeep Narwani. So he's the co-founder of Narrative Research Labs, which is an AI tech startup.
Good afternoon, visitors.
We'll give it a second.
The keynote on Dubai Studio City by Buthaina Al Mullah is now starting at the Broadcast India conference room. Please join the same.
Right. So I think obviously Mr.
Good
Narwani
afternoon,
will.
visitors, exhibitors. The keynote on Dubai Studio City by Buthaina Al Mullah is starting now in the Broadcast India conference room. Please join the same. Thank you.
Sounds like Dubai is more important than India, is it? We'll change the script now. Yeah. So, Mr. Narwani, of course, like please go ahead and let us know a little bit about how AI and tech is disrupting the industry. As we were also chatting before, you're mentioning you mentioned that there was quite a lot of new like apps like that are proliferating and changing the scene entirely. So would you like to tell us a little bit about like how you see that impacting copyright and some recent examples, because that's very fascinating for everyone right now given the AI boom and everyone's working with AI. Like how do you know that my whole script right now is not written by ChatGPT? It's not. I mean, some of it, but sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So I may be the most. Firstly, thank you so much for having me here.
Cheers.
Very, very honored to be with all of you. I may be the most unpopular guy on this panel at the end of it, but I have a slightly different take. Being an entrepreneur and also a lawyer, by the way, done both. I'm a computer science grad who studied law and worked in the human rights field for a couple of years. I want to say that that as such, law and policy will be the biggest stranglehold for entrepreneurs, especially AI entrepreneurs, if it doesn't let go.
Right.
And I'm going to start, I think 20 years, I'm going to just and try to wrap up as soon as possible. Go 20 years back. Napster came around, I remember then, and you just spoke of Napster.
So I was saying, yeah,
But there was this, there was another movie that came in, I think sometime in 2010 called Facebook, which had a very demonizing portrayal of Sean Parker, the guy who made Napster.
Okay, yeah.
Sean Parker goes on to become
It
the
was in the
president.
social network, right?
Social network.
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
sorry. So it's on
So
Facebook.
Justin
So-
Timberlake plays Sean Parker.
yeah, Justin
I remember
Timberlake.
that one. Yeah.
that character, exactly,
sure,
that guy. So, I just happened to be studying in the US at that stage, and remember the very popular tagline that everyone used to, wear on their shirts was "Move fast and break things."
Yeah.
If you don't move fast, you're not going to get anywhere in life. Be stranded. It's like
Absolutely.
if you're sitting in one place for too long, you'll be rolled over. So when I started an NFT marketplace, I co-founded the NFT marketplace in 2021.
How's that going now?
It's crashed. That's okay. It's a part of life.
Part of life.
But I mean, I had spoken to Jamshed then for help on how should we be dealing with the NFT marketplace in India. I mean, NFT business in India. I think it was June 2022 that we had this new regulation of 30% taxation that kind of killed
Yeah.
the market.
In the
even
budget
if-
speech also
even
like,
if-
came out and
yeah.
everyone was just mind blown.
yeah, absolutely. It's not sustainable. But later that year, I think in November 22, we had ChatGPT, which was launched. It didn't sound like it would be that big. But sometime around May, there were a lot of companies who were building their business models on ChatGPT. Like a lot of new ones came around. And then coincidentally at the same time, sometime then, Elon Musk starts to take over Twitter.
Correct, yeah.
And I'm speaking about all of this because Elon Musk comes in and says now businesses which were working on Twitter data will not be able to scrape data anymore.
Right.
As in, so it was at that stage that I wanted to use ChatGPT to scrape data from Twitter
Got
and
it.
analyze sentiments, what was going on. This is,
Yeah.
this is my new startup that you just spoke about. Narrative Research Labs was born because we wanted to figure out ways in which people are communicating, what are they talking about things. And this was public data. In my view, I feel this is public data.
Right.
I mean, I'm trying to move as fast as
And
possible.
as a lawyer as well, you could like say this, right?
Yeah, no.
You
I mean, no. As an entrepreneur, I want to move as fast
course,
as
yeah.
possible.
You're going to break things. That's the idea, right?
Yeah, and sometime around then, I remember having a conversation with Jamshed about metaverse, another small thing that I just want to throw in. So I called up Jamshed and I said, look, I have these bunch of folks who will make a law metaverse. We'll have a court. And Jamshed was like, let's do it. So the next day, these guys came up with a prototype. It was very ugly. So I guess Jamshed didn't like it too much. But at the same time, what it taught us was that you can have things done very easily if you allow technology to do it.
Right.
If you allow things to happen. Now, of course, I do respect the Indian courts. And
Dubai again.
yeah, Dubai.
Dubai calling.
So I just want to...
Please join the technical seminar by Canon Plot Twist
Okay.
by Ankit Singh, which is starting now in the Broadcast India conference area.
Just leave Ankit Singh, come to Anil
I
Kapoor.
know.
So Anil Kapoor this year won a case and got featured in the Time Magazine 100. Nobody could ever thought
Yeah.
he'd make it there. But he got featured in because he won a case in the Delhi High Court, of all places. Justice Pratibha Singh gives an order in his favor that, amongst many things, the word jhakaas
Right.
is something
It's
that...
a personality right. It can be
yeah.
attributed to him. Yeah.
Yeah, but
absolutely.
I think it kills fandom. What Web3 and ChatGPT and AI technologies can do is create another alternative industry for fandom, people creating memes, wishing each other with voice messages. If there is no monetization happening, then why don't you let it happen? Why do you want to make money out of, or maybe stop people from doing it? So anyways, these are broad questions. I think we have a friend of mine, Rizio. Is he here around the startup? I think they've left. They had to pitch somewhere else.
Oh, yeah.
Are they?
Okay.
Can you see them around? I wanted them to pitch, show what they've done. Amongst many things, I feel people are able to move fast only and only if regulation and law doesn't come in the way. I completely agree. 50,000 is not a good, fine. It's not doing justice. But as someone who's an emerging tech entrepreneur,
Yeah.
I feel more money should be given to people, more investment should come into business
Right.
models around AI and entertainment. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I will come back to some more interesting questions for everyone. But we'll start with Mr. Parag Kamani right now. So in music, does anyone else want to posit a question to Parag? Right. So then basically so you mentioned Napster, sir, right? So how do you see that, from that being a gray area, do you see that technology which disrupts essentially starts from a gray area and then goes ahead to become regulated? And how do you think that actually plays into the regulation that exists, the framework that exists, which we work with all the time, sir?
Ishan, your observations are right. Unfortunately, regulation seems to follow technology. Because what happens is as soon as the technology or the content becomes popular, then you have, whether as individuals or as music labels, then you make an effort to protect it.
Right.
Okay, so it's an almost like an afterthought. And I don't know how many people over here are either composers or lyricists or singers. Anybody in the audience right now? Okay. Anyway, the main thing is if you coming back to AI, which Sundar has been, has been able to express to us what he's doing and what AI can do for us. About 2 years back, there were two artists by the name of Weekend and Drake.
Of course.
There was a song called Heart on My Sleeve, okay? And people assumed that it was a collaboration between these two artists.
This is that big AI blockbuster. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Please, yeah.
Something like 8 million streams
Right.
across TikTok and Spotify because it sounded like them, the compositions were similar, lyrics were similar, and the voices matched theirs.
Indistinguishable.
Okay. But what happens is it was created by a TikTok user, uploaded, and it's only after it became popular that the label behind Drake and The Weeknd, Universal Music, then sent a takedown notice to Spotify / TikTok and had it deleted. Okay. Now the question here is, AI is something that exists, and it will only expand what it can really do in terms of creating content and giving people choices.
Right.
So I think the point that I'm trying to make is the governments of the respective countries need to be extremely alert
Yeah.
about what is it that they want to do to protect the actual copyright holders. And I don't know, somebody from the panel can probably expand on it. Maybe you can, Ishan.
Sure.
But the EU, European Union, they've actually set up their own law which has come into existence effectively from August 1st to 2024,
Okay.
where they are trying to place parameters
Right.
to ensure that this copyright infringement does not arise.
Okay.
So that was one. The second part, which I need to draw to the attention of the audience and the panelists, is the market is getting absolutely cluttered. There was a time when you needed to launch your music or your videos through a organized music label or an audiovisual company. Right now, because of technology, you can address your audience directly. And what has happened is right now there are something like 120,000 songs that are being uploaded.
Wow. Okay.
And this is not the audio visual, it's only the audio aspect across each of the digital platforms. Now, a study that has been created is that 42% of these 120,000 songs have got less than 10 streams. And 24% of these 120,000 songs have got no streams. So I'm just saying that unless you regulate AI, if you keep churning out more and more content, the opportunity of being heard or being seen are getting reduced. Okay? So it's a catch-22 situation. What is it? What kind of laws can be implemented to ensure that the people who actually create content are protected, and the newbies, the freshers, even if they were to create content, how are they best protected?
So, but that's like more of a business proposition, isn't it? Ultimately, like, you know, like you mentioned, I think like Mr. Mystery will also possibly, if you could chime in, like how essentially the industry follows, the legislation follows the industry, right? And like, and from your perspective, because it's you understand the, like in terms of the legal alliance, like internationally speaking, this is international. Like essentially, like AI and all, it's no longer international either. Like there is no boundary anymore. So and what you've done, like how, as you've mentioned, like what the International Legal Alliance is doing is also very fascinating, because ultimately it stems from one point from a singularity, or it can be expanded to be thought of as like a collective conscious creating this new era of content. So how do you see this evolving even further? And like maybe you could answer Parag sir's question on how like who is going to be responsible for regulating this, because it's so wide in its scope.
See, as far as AI is concerned, I think that one thing, at least this is
Yeah.
my perspective, and fortunately, till date, the courts have also. See, there is somebody called a creator. If you
Yes.
even see your Copyright Act, it says the first,
First
owner,
owner of
is the author. Okay, so I mean, if you see, I mean, recent judgments even in the United States and everywhere else, that's. The difficulty is, for example, whether it's crypto, NFT, etc. Crypto is a great example. I mean, you have people doing, transactions. You might have, say, 50 transactions in 50 minutes.
Yes.
Do you have a system that can even, match it? And I mean, if something goes wrong, so the first thing I think the sea change needs to be, if you have technology coming in and which is
Yeah.
very rapid, you have to have a law in place. The legal section, don't wait till, yes, now we will think about what will happen and then bring in a law. Bring it in parallelly. Let technology and law work together. I think this has to be, and we should be the change makers in that space.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So that's one way of actually, getting,
Right.
because look at our legal system, not only here, even internationally.
Yeah.
I mean, a copyright dispute of any magnitude, what is the situation on the ground? I mean, I mean, sorry to say, yes, you have a few, courts like Delhi which are taking up matters, and that's where all the judgments are coming from today. But otherwise, I mean, technically, unfortunately, again, I say that your Copyrights Act in India is the only law which insists that it has to go to a court or a tribunal. I mean, change that. Get it changed. Let the registrar decide a few things.
Right.
And things like that. So I think that needs to come in very, very
Like
quickly.
with trademarks, for example, like it's a little
Yes.
more like in the hands of the registrar. Like,
Absolutely. I mean, bring in today, for example. Let's talk about alternate disputes. I mean, if an alternate dispute resolution
Yes.
has to take place, a huge dispute, multinational, between two companies, you have mediators who can resolve these issues in 2 to 3 days.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, bring it
Why
in.
not with copyright as well?
So again,
it's as
it's a-
fast as that, right?
Absolutely. So education and awareness is absolutely essential,
Right.
and today and use technology to do that. So make good use of technology.
So again, AI could step in there and say a voting system of like
Yes.
how that adjudication can happen. But
Sure.
then we're way behind like in terms of that, don't you
But
think?
and the other interesting aspect about technology is, once it doesn't take time to implement. I mean, you implement it for one, the second one can be done instantly.
Correct. Yeah.
So-
This precedence has to be set. Thank you so much for your views. So I think, and I think we're drawing on part of what you had mentioned, sir. I think Dr. Harsha can definitely explain how that system comes about in terms of, because you mentioned crypto and NFTs, especially now, like sort of revolving around our topic here in terms of NFTs being something that is definitely coming under the ambit of what we're looking to protect here. Copyright. I mean, let's keep AI aside for a second, because when NFTs was having its boom, that's kind of pre the AI boom as well. So, but how do you see cyber systems helping with exactly what Mr. Mistry and Mr. Kamani have mentioned before? Like, is there a way actually to do something so forward thinking?
Yes. So, before we talk about the copyrights, once the content is ready, then only the copyright violation will come. The cyber attack is happening in such a way, before you conclude your content, and hacker is taking data.
Right.
How it happens? One of the case today I will tell you, the music director composes, and before he conclude, the entire tune and all the notes is taken out. Can you tell me how it happens? If the content is ready, then
Right.
copyright issue comes. Before content or while we do the content, only the compromises are happening, because the media industry is having 40% of IoTs. Is that correct? Can anybody tell? Your players
yeah.
or instruments or many devices within
Alexa
the media
and
industry.
like your, yeah,
It's
whatever.
all IP based,
Correct, yeah.
right? Composers and
It's a
any
massive
device you
risk.
take now.
Exactly, yeah. It's a massive risk. 'cause,
Application based and IP based. In that case study, what I investigated, okay, the music director is not aware that his system is compromised. When I asked, sir, did you make some kind of security mechanisms around these devices
Right.
through which your content will be safe and secure? He said, why I need? He is not
They have no
aware.
idea, yeah.
He is not aware that my devices can be compromised. My devices can be heard from China. I'm telling you, we can do that. There is a malware. There is a spyware. Malwares are available. Even in the market, in a Nairobi market, 600 rupees. In INR, what I'm talking about.
Right, okay.
Okay, that malware or spyware comes to your media industry or any device. It's IoT, any IP-based device. Okay, it resides there. Open the back door to the hacker, maybe the guy who wanted to take out the content. Now I can tell you that in Z, what is happening right now telecasted, if it is compromised. So are we going to talk about that? Or are you going to talk about the copyright laws? See, it's a secondary, what I'm talking.
Correct, yeah.
The preliminary
This is the primary
level, the
issue
primary
that-
level
yeah.
only, there is a issue.
Okay.
Okay? So the contents are at risk. Okay? How the GRC is going to play there?
Right.
Who is going to govern? Is CISO is going to talk only strategies? Only he is going to talk about the
Right.
policies, procedures. Okay? How he is going to segregate into the critical devices and non-critical devices within the media group?
On the operation.
segregated?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm asking open question. I have
Absolutely, yeah.
30, 40 media clients, like,
Yes, yes.
okay, and all of them are saying, sir, we don't need that. We don't need. Is media industry
Yeah,
deploying data leak prevention?
right.
I will call it as a content leak prevention.
Absolutely, because
CLP.
better prevent than cure.
Okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
is any media industry has done CLP? No. Okay, but they are least bothered. Okay, fine, I can recreate it. Okay, one guy was telling that no sir, it can be recreated. I said that how much you spent for that which you lost?
And somebody's effort went in that. Yeah.
Sir, 4 days I took to create that content with my
Correct.
team.
Yeah, yeah.
He said coolly, he says that I can recreate it. I said it's an indirect impact, financial impact on the media industry.
And the integrity as well, of course. Yeah.
Yes, correct. So, and once that is done and the copyright comes.
It kills the creator's innovation as well. Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely, yeah.
and media industry is not realizing there is a 40% of indirect impact and financial loss to the company. But they don't invest on the technology. As Sir Samister was
right.
telling, AI used by hackers, AI used by media,
Yeah.
and AI can tell you which media industry, which client, which the segment is having a loophole within their network. How many of them are vulnerable? It can give a list, a dashboard. Okay.
It's scary, isn't it?
I don't need to go for audit. I don't need to go for investigation on the media. The AI can tell me that, okay, this AI client has got this older versions. The devices what they are using, okay, I can tell you openly, I can challenge.
Please, yeah.
Open challenge. None of the devices were up to date.
Right. Not even the big companies, like anywhere.
Even
We've seen-
even the larger
right.
companies also
Yeah.
underestimate that patches. Why device needed patch?
Hmm.
Why device needed patch? Somewhere in the world, some part of the world, the hackers targeted the device, right? That manufacturer has released the patch so that your IoT device cannot be compromised.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, and I can openly challenge that 90% of media industry in India, especially at least in India we have maturity. Okay, auditors like us are there to advise people. But when you go to the US and UK market,
Yeah.
okay, they know what is the latest device, what they wanted to buy. But still there are the legacy systems, the devices,
Yeah.
those are unpatched.
Right.
Okay, so these are the major threat for the content.
Understood. Yeah. And
Okay?
it's
And for
surprising,
this, leadership has to drive from the front.
correct. Yeah.
Okay, they think that okay, manageable.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the CEO was telling me, Dr. Arshad, we are managing, our business is happening.
Yeah.
Our business is happening. I'm not telling the business stopped. Business is happening with the 30% of loss.
Wow.
Now you are getting 100 crores. You should have got 150 crores.
My God.
He is not worried about 150 crores because he has to invest on latest technology.
30 lakhs he is concerned about.
He has to
right now.
invest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Correct?
So that short-term vision is like
Absolutely.
holding people back.
Yeah. So they should have a long-term
Correct.
plan on, and quick technology adoption is the major threat for a media industry.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They don't want to adopt so soon. Okay. They adopt in terms of
Once
production.
the concept is already proved, and then like it's easier for you to justify.
Yes. In terms of futures, they want it.
Right.
If anything, technology helps to the production, that is fine.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the technology which is safeguarding the business,
Yes.
there is a question mark.
That's very insightful. Thank you,
Yeah.
doctor. I think so. Like also now we'll speak to Mr. Narvani about how he feels about, especially like what you were mentioning a little while ago, that there's definitely been so much breach as well in terms of how AI can be used to create like this system of exploitation, which is, you know, like which takes away from the creators' integrity, from their effort. You're mentioning a couple of apps. I think you wanted to talk about that, and also how you were mentioning that decentralizing this could be definitely like an interesting way to look at it. Because I mean, and I was letting you know a particular client of mine as well called Foof, which is trying to do that as well by creating a decentralized autonomous organization and like creating a DAO of DAOs to be able to give the control back to individual creators. And it's really fascinating. I mean, I'll also, you know, talk to you guys later about this. It brings in the aspect of NFTs as well, where every zone of creator, like a filmmaker or a graphic novelist or a musician, can create their own DAO, decentralize, and like, you know, be responsible for their own governance, and then have a governing organization which is again decentralized on top of that, and in a social network, rather than having like how you were mentioning the Elon Musk letting you scrape or not scrape data. And for you also, that's a big concern, like you were mentioning, whether or not it's a democratized process anymore or not. So this is important. So what are your thoughts on that? And the newest apps that have come out, which are, you know, becoming a hurdle, becoming a stumbling block to this?
Yeah. So I think our most fundamental premise of building these businesses is data. Data is the new oil.
Yeah.
Okay. Even content has to be looked from a data lens. So I'll go back to Napster, and then comes in Spotify. Okay. Spotify brings in a lot of, you know, the arrangements with these music companies and is able to run a beautiful business. It's now one of the biggest, you know, platforms in the world. But the biggest problem that content producers have with Spotify is that revenue isn't shared, and it's like a monopoly now.
Yeah.
So in fact, it becomes so. All of this ends up with a data monopoly. It's a small company versus the big company.
Correct,
It's
yeah.
the producer, the content producer becomes small, the data platform becomes big. So at the end of the day, I guess we need to democratize data.
Yeah.
That's where we start from. I think that should be our larger vision. Now, firstly, let's look at ChatGPT, the new kid on the block, which is
Yes.
shaking the world. Now, we don't know where does ChatGPT get its data from. It doesn't quite disclose what data it's using to build its answers. You know.
Just like trust it at this point.
Yeah.
Like,
So, yeah. So if it's like
if it
hallucinating.
makes my job easier, I'll just be like, yeah, sure. Like,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah, so I try to dig up, I try to do a lot of experiments with ChatGPT to figure out past 2 years data is something that doesn't scrape. It doesn't have in its
Right.
engine, you know, and that's something that even they claim themselves.
4.0 came out right now, and they're saying that ChatGPT 4.0 is now apparently like updated. But
It's updated.
It is.
Right. It is updated, but then it will hallucinate for what it doesn't know. It cannot, no system in the world can know everything in that
Right,
sense.
right.
It can be trained on everything. ChatGPT is also training itself. So that's the
Correct,
thing about AI. All the AI systems out there are training. And talking about training, I'll give you an instance of this new company called Pocket. It's not a new company, new controversy around Pocket FM.
Pocket FM.
And this was a case in which a lot of people said that people who had uploaded, folks who had uploaded their audio files,
Yeah.
they thought that this was being used to train another model
Yeah.
without their consent, without them getting their due for it. They should be getting money for
Right,
training
right,
data. Their voice samples were used to train another model. Now, when something like this happens, this is clearly because it's not a transparent process. In the past 20 years, I think all of us have given our voice samples or video samples, wherever. Even right now, we'll be uploading stuff on social media,
Correct.
we'll be uploading it on, YouTube, and we really don't know where all of it is going. Now, in the past, when I guess when we look back, companies which have become monopolies have become so because they were able to contain data within themselves. They were able to control that data. One doesn't know. So I feel rather than looking at putting hurdles in front of the user and saying you cannot use Jhakas, I'm just staying with that problem, and saying let's come to the big company and let's try and build as much transparency in those companies. Again, I don't think regulation as such stopping someone is a good thing, but if you don't know how much money are they making off which data, then there's no point of having.
There's no way to track it.
There's
as
no way
well.
to track it.
And I think
Yeah.
because this is under the aegis of
Yeah.
the India Blockchain Alliance as well.
You're right.
Like for so long we've been looking at blockchain to provide that answer, right? Because it's supposed to open that up, create that digital ledger, but that doesn't exist for our industry largely, right? I mean, it's only the monetized aspects, NFTs and things like that get the forefront, right? But like stuff that you're saying, which is really important, like, do you think that there's a way to actually integrate blockchain into that aspect? I mean, like everyone was talking blockchain for a long time, and right now, if anyone says it, it seems like we're just like hearkening back to that. Like everyone's like, you're too late to it. Companies like yours, like, do you get investment if you even say the word blockchain? Like, does that?
True.
So what do you think? Like, what are some of the measures that can happen actually? Like, what is practically possible in 2024, moving on to 2025?
I think blockchain is very, very resource intensive.
Right.
So building a Twitter on blockchain, like a decentralized social network, would
Yeah.
be very expensive. There's something called Farcaster that is running. It's I think they've raised $150 million so far, and they charge $5 to the user because they want the user to pay. Now, when the user
Who wants that, right?
yeah, I know you wouldn't want that, but then you want access over your control over your
Correct,
data,
yeah.
so you pay for it. Facebook would have never made it this big had it charged its users. Coming to some of like the other new media models that are coming around, like metaverse, for instance. A lot of brands want to sell on the metaverse. Yesterday we had a brilliant presentation. Raj Kapoor did something on how brands are leveraging blockchain and metaverse. Till blockchain is one platform which gives you complete details about the transaction, as in
Autonomy as well.
autonomy as well. Absolutely. So if you have a brand store on the metaverse, you know how much sales they did. It's
Correct.
all there. There's nothing to hide. Absolutely. But building it will take time, and I guess till that happens, we should have better arrangements like the GDPR, like you mentioned, the global data protection rights in EU. We need our own model which can monitor how these bigger companies, the bigger giants, the Facebooks, the Googles of the world, the Metas rather, are taking data and how are they using it. There's been a recent development that I've been very thrilled to see. It's called the Meta Ad Library, where you can see who's giving ads and how much over there.
Like on
And the
Instagram,
Google
you
ad
mean
light.
like when you can
Yeah.
go and say, no, sorry, is that
Yeah.
like what you're talking about? Like where you can see how the ads are being,
Yeah.
how the ads are coming to you, how
Yeah.
your data is being used. I think you can switch it on and off in Meta and Instagram
As-
and
Yeah.
Facebook and things
as,
like
as
that.
a user, you can.
Something like that,
As,
right.
as a user, you can. And in that sense, we are also able to scrape that data. Now, so
Okay.
far, we are able to scrape where the ads are coming from, how much money is being spent on that,
Yeah.
etc. But what data is our user behavior, like which ad am I liking or which ad am I spending time watching, that is going back into the system
Right.
to the advertiser, and that's not known to me how much that's sold for. So I think that's a problem. And
So-
decentralized social networks, that like the one like you mentioned, are the only answer to it. Blockchain
I
is
think
the
so.
only answer.
Okay. Yeah.
So, no, this is very interesting. I think we've learned a lot, and thank you for, awakening everybody on the fact that, before you even so imagine now you'll have to change the law to say even I anticipate that I will create something and I need that protected as well. I mean, that's fantastic. I think two aspects. Sandeep spoke about metaverse. I mean, we saw a very very interesting aspect where we could actually get an entire courtroom scene in metaverse. That's one. But the as far as Chat GPT is concerned, I mean, quite often the courts have said, and now it's quite obvious. I mean, when you receive a legal notice in Chat GPT, you will
my
find
God.
language which they,
Sir, imagine your
that
juniors
is
doing
even.
that.
I mean, even will give Shakespeare a complex. So that's something. But there is another fantastic app which another lawyer showed to me,
Right.
where somebody puts in content for the plaintiff, some for the defendant, and the AI gives you the judgment. So, I mean, where are we going with all this? I think so this is important. But I want to come right down back to the basic, the creator. Because very very often I think they're the people. They're the backbone of this industry.
Yeah.
And how, I mean, at the end of the day, they should get the fair share.
Absolutely.
I mean, so can you use blockchain to sort of, ensure
Decentralize and-
things like royalty is equally distributed? I mean, the music industry is probably done quite well in India on that. You talk about royalty
Yes.
to others, they'll say, we don't want to contract with you. But, I think
Any other
these
performer, it's such a big challenge for them to
that's
even know, like, like what happened with the guy who did the song for Badshah, and like, he was like having such a big, he had no idea, no one is informed of the fact that you can actually go and get these royalties, like, and micro royalties in the streaming
So,
as well.
he talked about Anil Kapoor.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, we advised Kabir Bedi on this.
Right.
We didn't need to go to court. We found another method of actually informing the world that, here is a personality, and,
Right.
if you do something, then, we are watching. So, and the other aspect which is very interesting is the analytics of it all. Whatever you're doing today is being analyzed. We're speaking today is being analyzed. So I think, we really sort of, so where are we going with technology? And, how can, technology, it has to be beneficial. The minute it stops being beneficial, put your foot down. I think that's important.
That's what. And I think, thank you for that input, sir. I think also, I mean, my personal view on what you're saying there is that sometimes legislation can hurt rather than, help the industry along. But then again, you've also mentioned that it is so important for legislation to catch up. So that's like, again, like food for thought for everyone, like in all of our spheres here. So if anyone else would like to posit any questions to each other, that would be
I
great.
would like to
Yeah.
highlight a few things here.
Yeah.
Okay. Since Europe came out with the GDPR, privacy,
Right.
and government of India came out with the privacy legislation, biggest challenge for media, I'm telling you, how are you going to handle privacy legislations?
That's like a very
And
important point there. Yeah,
every
absolutely.
character, everybody who's part of the content should be signed with a consent form. And in case if somebody is misusing that content, if the data subject or citizen of
Yes.
India or citizen of Europe raising a legal issue, how are you going to face that? The minimum penalty is 250 crores of DPDP.
Under
Okay?
under DPDP. Right,
DPDP,
right,
what
right,
I'm
right.
talking about.
GDPR, I think they have given even 2 billion.
GDPR is turnover
Yeah, yeah.
and 4 million, 2 million and 4 million maximum.
Yes, yes.
Or the
2 million, 4
global
million.
turnover.
Correct, yeah.
Global turnover. See, my question here is how privacy is going to be addressed by this
Right.
media industry. We are still immature to talk about privacy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We are not. Okay, you get a call from a insurance company, it's my privacy violation, right? Still, but the bill is passed.
Yes.
The legislation is there already. Europe is collected billions.
Yeah.
Their motive is
They've made so
not
much
to
money
safeguard
off it.
your
It's
privacy,
crazy, yeah.
but they wanted to earn good money.
Correct.
Okay, India also behind their strategy, I believe. But when it comes to the media, okay, or in the industry,
Yeah.
okay, how are you going to tackle this? You have to define how long your character or in my content is going to be living here. Whether you are giving me 3 years, my content should be there with you.
Right.
How long you are going to retain? If I'm coming back to you after 10 years and telling that delete my content, will you remove that character from the
GDPR,
content?
you're supposed to do that, right?
So these are the biggest
the
challenge.
repository being created is such a big challenge, right?
Yes. So
Do they even have the repository after DPDP? I mean,
the one is henceforth.
right.
Henceforth, you
Huh.
follow the policy, you follow the content.
But then
But
if you don't
whatever
have it,
created the
Yeah.
content, what is exist? Okay.
you've,
How are you going to
you've
address?
sold it to somebody. Okay, you've outsourced that repository. You've outsourced the compliance only with somebody else.
Yes. And legal stalwarts are there here. Will they tell
Yes,
that
please.
legislation is not for the past?
Retroactively, it cannot.
If it is created in 1970 or 1980 or 1990, will he say that that law is not applicable? Are you going to maintain a consent? Are you going to be a policy, procedures and everything? In case, if you hesitate to do that, the media industry is hesitate to do that, you have to face the legal consequences and penalties.
Yeah.
Correct? So now, Jamshed sir and
sure.
Parag can answer for
No,
that.
I'll answer straight away. I think.
Straight shooting, actually. Yeah.
I mean, essentially, what's going to happen is everybody pays 250 crores. You'll have only insolvent and bankrupt companies. So that's number one. No. The second thing is absolutely correct. I think this was a situation where a photographer, very renowned photographer, who came in from the US and he shot a coffee table book. And what happened was, I mean, he shot, randomly, and there were other sort of ordinary people on the road, and that
wandered into the flame,
Yes.
yeah.
So HarperCollins raised that issue. They said, we don't have content, their consent for
Do not
people
make
like
enough
that.
money. What's the problem?
No, that's okay. So that's one answer. But
Yeah.
the second thing is, it's true. It's an issue. I mean, so are you going to find somebody on the road and say, "Excuse me, I need your consent"?
Correct. Yeah.
So the only way out is, we said, we put out a public notice. If someone comes, then you answer it. So we'll have to find solutions. You're absolutely right. So, I mean,
Right,
that's the role of the law, and that's how you progress.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What is happening is because of want of clarity or legislation. Just to take on what Doctor has said, what you have said, I have a client who's actually approached me. He's utilized AI to utilize the voice of a singer that has passed away.
Right.
Okay, and wants to utilize that voice not only in terms of creating new compositions, but at the same time utilizing that voice in conjunction with existing singers. Okay, and there is every likelihood that if my client is ready and willing to take up the challenge, okay, we will actually be able to launch this in the next 30 days. Okay, so I'm just telling you the reality that it works both ways. You need legislation to monitor things, but if there's no legislation, how do you push or create a situation that legislation is passed?
Correct. Yeah. Because you know what people are thinking on the ground. Like this is the reality, of course. So I think unless anyone has any other questions, we'd like to open up the discussion.
In
Sir,
fact,
please, yeah.
one of the client was telling me his purpose was to get a penalty. He was telling Dr. Asha, can you help me?
Right.
Okay, I have my data with this company or with this university also. University, I have my personal data. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you help me to file a privacy case? I said, what is your intention? Sir, the legislation talks about my privacy, my rights.
Correct.
Okay. Now I sent a mail to them, remove my content. 3 times I sent. Okay. 4 times I sent. I said, some more another 5 times you send, you will get a penalty along with the compensation. See, now you have to see the other side of the legislation. People wanted to make money,
Yeah.
get benefit out of that.
Correct. Yeah.
And what the legal aspect is, which clearly shows, you cannot give a mandatory tick mark or you abide with this privacy policy.
Okay.
You have to give a choice.
So the burden of proof.
You have to
essentially,
give a
what
choice,
Of course,
yes
yeah.
or no. Okay. Or if I have seen one of the privacy, they put a tick mark or only one option is there. By submitting this, you accept the privacy policy.
Right.
It is again violation. Okay, of the
But
privacy.
it's widespread. This is the practice. I mean.
Correct. So the issue here is how to safeguard your business from this kind of dark side of legislations.
That's what we
I
were
call
talking about.
dark
earlier.
side.
Yeah.
Okay,
Of course.
yeah, I wanted to be a good benefit out of that. If I want to
Right.
take it, then I can use that. So how the media industry is prepared for that? Are you going to bring all the security controls or privacy policies and ensure that there is no penalty levied on the company? So that is my
Thank
final
you.
note.
Thank you for that.
And
sir.
I'm sorry making too many allegations or things, but when you look at your business, or when you look at the business, you should see always the gaps and risk involved on that.
Correct.
If you look at only the positive side, you are going, as the previous session was talking about how to sustain in the market, right? Sustainability is the major thing here. Your contents are stolen. You are coming under the crimes, and you cannot do the business properly.
I think
here.
all of our jobs here are revolve around telling people no.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And most
so,
of the other
so I
businesses are
play
yes.
devil's advocate role here. Instead
Yeah, yeah,
of giving
please,
all
please,
the
please. Of
positive side, I am giving a negative side so that be alert.
Absolutely.
Okay, please, you have
Thank you.
question.
Yeah,
No,
questions.
I
please.
just had one observation.
Sorry,
I
so
wanted
sorry.
to-
Could you please introduce yourself? Just
yeah,
a little
so my
bit about
name is
yourself. Yeah.
Rajiv. I'm an independent consultant working with the streaming industry. But I also have, interest in the legal side of things, especially around copyright and, long-term, preserving long-term access to content, as part of the social contract on which copyright is based.
Yes.
But I wanted to bring out an interesting observation because the DPDP law, which has just come out, has a very interesting provision which makes it significantly more advanced than GDPR and other, comparable privacy laws worldwide, which is the concept of informed consent. Like you said, the days of just having that auto checkbox, you hit submit, you automatically agreed to anything that may be in the policy. Those days are gone. But it goes beyond that because the DPDP also talks about the fact that not only do you have, as a company, the responsibility of getting consent, you also have the responsibility of providing a mechanism for that user to manage their consent and potentially revoke that consent at a later date. So I, as a user, may agree today to allow you to use the data, but you have to give me the ability at a date in the future to come back to you and say, I am now revoking that consent. You can no longer use my data going forward, even if I have consented to you using it at the time that I gave you the data. Correct. Right. So then the addition of a third-party entity like a consent manager and the workflow around that will probably become critical for the media industry to build up. But the good news is that DPDP has made provision for that, which is not the case with some of the other laws.
A sort of ombudsman, I think, like which
Exactly.
in GDPR
So-
is, I think,
so
it's
someone
the
who-
data controller, if I'm not
Yes.
wrong. Yeah.
Someone who can provide
Correct,
for
yeah.
the ability for that. But that was just an observation. My real question to the panel was more to do with some of the learnings that we have had from content protection challenges that have come from other industries as they have moved into kind of digital delivery and stuff like that. My concern here is when you say protecting content, one aspect that most of the people here will look at is protecting content from the perspective of, okay, there's a publisher who's publishing content and there's someone who's looking to use that content in an unauthorized
Exploit it,
fashion.
yeah.
Exploit it, pirate it, whatever. But I'm also looking at a longer term view of this, of how you protect your access to the content as a viewer or as a consumer. An example for this is typically found in, for example, the gaming industry. Gaming industry is also content that publishers put out, but people who license that content, okay? Now they are licensing it digitally from a company. The company has a technological measures of protecting it using DRM and stuff
Steam,
like that.
Steam, for example. Yeah.
Steam is just one of them, but
Right.
many large publishers use their own. Now, what happens when a publisher who has published a game goes out of business? Guess what? Their DRM servers get switched off. So suddenly, people who have a legitimate access to that content no longer have access to that content because suddenly the DRM server that authorizes that access is no longer available. The same also applies now in an age when a lot of digital media is also being protected by DRM. Once upon a time, if you had a book and the book was out of print, you could still go to find someone who had an earlier edition and buy it in the secondary market. Okay, but a book released today that's only released digitally, even if you may find 100 people who have a copy of that book, you have no way of going and buying that from them because there's no way to transfer the license. So eventually you'll end up with dead content.
What is your question?
So my
You supposed to be in a panelist.
no. So my
The
question
way
is,
you're talking, okay, next time we will invite you, but what is the question?
my question is, how can the laws evolve to preserve access to such historical content? Content for which there is no one left to give consent to someone to use it, and the law says without consent you can't use it. Okay, even though there, so effectively the content is locked away from use for the rest of history.
So,
Kind.
So
let's-
that is the biggest challenge for media industry now, as of now, for the DPDP. I will tell you. First of all, you should maintain transparency. The data subject or the citizen of India should know what kind of content you are holding, which is pertaining to me, right? Is it follow? It's happening now? No.
At the moment there's nothing.
No, correct? You have to bring a first inventory of data and transference of the data, correct? And then come out to the policy or consent forms where they should select, right? So these three layers are
Creating
there.
an archive.
Yes,
Yeah.
the three layers are missing as of now. That's why I'm telling you, media industry is facing a challenge or is going to face
And this
a
is for
challenge.
every industry, not just the media.
Yeah, anything, any
Mr.
industry.
Mistry also wanted to say something. I
Yeah.
think.
No, I will. We are very practical people here. So as far as this is concerned, I think there are two aspects. One is, for example, how, for example, data becomes open source, correct? Similar provisions could certainly be brought in. We still believe, like, I mean, Ishan talked about archiving. So that could also be brought in. Not difficult. I mean, blockchain provides, I mean, you can archive to the nth number. That's not an issue. And in fact, that should be brought in right from the beginning with this as a part of the contract, saying that on the assumption that you become insolvent, bankrupt, close down, what happens to your data?
So rather than regulatory, it could be
That's right.
transactional, which
That's
is something that, again, like I feel personally being like majorly working transactionally, like there's so much that you can do on contract rather than, if that answers your question to an extent. Yeah, of course, of course. See, that's how it evolves. But okay, I think we are running a little short on time, but it's been fascinating. If there's any, yeah, one more. Okay, one more small question. Sure. Could you 1 second? Yeah. Sir, just yeah, just introduce yourself. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. A very small question, sir, to you, Dr. Arsha. My own website has been replicated in US, and I can't do anything. I have an e-commerce website. I'm selling certain products on my website. The entire website has been replicated somewhere and sold. The same product has been sold in dollars. And what they are doing, I don't know. They haven't bought anything from me till date. But what to do? Nobody knows anything about it legally. When whoever I have spoken to, they don't know what to do. Somebody that writes to Google, I have written to Google, nothing happens. So what is the exact procedure? How to stop that website that doesn't totally replicate it? Entire stuff has been done, but pricing is changed. That's it. It's a dollar, we are in rupees.
Actually, if you look at not only your the e-commerce business or anything, okay, there is always people are there to clone your website, clone your business, copy your business. That will always happen. You have to build the security intelligence and analysis. Okay, there are many AI tools are there for that. If your content, the similar content which is there in your system, let's assuming that abc.com is yours, okay, xyz.com is somebody clone your exact content and your product, right? It is sold in the US in the dollar, correct? So now the thing is when I clone, okay, 50 to 60% similar content, I have to take it from you. If I don't do that, I'm creating a new one. Is it correct or not? The cloning concept, what you are talking about, are a fake account. Let's take in that way. When the total content is there, okay, there are mechanisms to identify my content, which is there in myabc.com, okay, if exists in other websites across globe, you will be getting alert. You can have a list of websites which those are having a similar content like yours, and then you can identify, okay, and then you can take some legal action. See, across globe there is no cyber centralized legislations. Within India we have our own. US is having their own.
Jurisdiction wise, yeah.
Correct.
Course, yeah.
So the here is anybody can take a copy and they can do a business. We were discussing before we
And there's
come to
different
this.
legal systems. It's extremely challenging. Like it
Yes.
happens in a different civil law system. You don't know, in common law, people don't know how to actually then you have to hire somebody over there to do it. It's a nightmare for sure. Yeah.
So there are two things. One is, of course, you can, in fact, we don't like to give legal advice across this way, but still,
you're giving
there is no
advice,
question. You can approach the court can, and we have done that in certain, where people have copied. For example, suppose somebody sits here and copies this and puts it out. It has happened. We have gone to court, and they're so quick, I must tell you. By the end of the day, it goes to a URL, for example, in Australia or Nigeria or someone like. So that's very quick. The other aspect is let's look at it in a slightly lighter vein. Look at what Magan Lal has done. He'll say, listen, I am the original Magan Lal. These are all copies, and benefit out of it, just on the side. But I think you'll have to be practical, and these things are happening. And that's what I sort of prefaced by saying that the technology in law, the day it starts running, even 20% together, you'll see the change, and hopefully that will happen very soon.
Thank you so much, and thank you to all our esteemed panelists. With that, we'll bring this session to a close. And thank you for being a wonderful audience and actually engaging with so many things which could have otherwise been so dry. And especially because of the panelists who have brought their own insights, their own experience, and made it so much more exciting than it would have. I mean, like, it doesn't read well at all. It's like a lot. But thank you, everyone. And thank you, audience. And thank you to the organizers as well.
Thank you, Mr. Banerjee, and our esteemed panelist. I'd like to call Veeramani, Indian Blockchain Alliance, to hand over the mementos to our guests.